101 is back, baby. Join us this episode as we talk about training camp. We talk about some of the rookies, and we talk about what's to come. Tune in. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment. KCSN 101, brought to you by Cookie Society. Let's go, baby.
Let's get it.
You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, or on our YouTube channel, all over social media, or our morning newsletter, KCSN Daily, dedicated to your Kansas City Chiefs. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Chiefs Kingdom, we are back. 2022 season. Here we go, baby. One-on-one podcast, bringing you all things Chiefs football from a player's perspective. We will be with you all year. I am Mike DeVito, 9-year NFL veteran playing with the Jets and the Chiefs. And we have my brother, as always, 9-year NFL veteran and Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl champion, Jeff Allen. We are getting back there this year, Big Jeff.
Yes, sir.
I'm so fired up right now. So excited to be back with you all. We're going to be here every week, all season, breaking down everything that's going on regarding Chiefs football. Before we get into that, our sponsor, as always, Cookie Society Cookies.
Yes, sir.
I'm over here. I'm trying to lose weight. Now I'm heading back up because I knew I'd be eating Cookie Society all season. Big Jeff, what do we got? It's August, or it's almost August.
It's almost August. Right now, we're still in July. You know, we got red velvet, peanut butter, s'more, caramel apple crisp, all our classics, chocolate chip, banana pudding, cookies and cream, frosted oatmeal. The list goes on, man. It's really tough for me to lose weight because you know I own a cookie company, and my wife makes unbelievable food. She makes everything great, so it's tough around here. But you know, make sure you visit the website www.cookiesociety.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Cookie Society. Get some good cookie content. I promise you, you will love these things if you haven't had them already. If you had them, drop some comments in the comment section below on YouTube or whatever you're watching.
Yeah.
Drop some comments below.
Yeah, no doubt. Incredible, incredible cookies. We know our cookies. We're Lyman. You can trust us.
Yes,
Big
sir.
Jeff, here we go, baby. I can't even. I'm fired up. I'm so excited. I was talking to Tucker, our producer, before we got started, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, you know, I can't wait to do one-on-one, but it's the summer's just started. It'll be down the road. And now all of a sudden, here we are at the end of July, beginning of August, and we're getting going. And I was outside walking the dog with my wife, and I was smelling the air. You know, you smell the grass. It was hot. You can feel the humidity. And it's like instantly my anxiety was up to a 10 because I'm like, oh, man, it's football season.
Yes.
So what I figured we'd start off talking about training camp and what it's like for players, both as, you know, older veteran guys and young rookies, you know, getting ready to go into training camp. And so I'll kick it off to you, man. As an older guy, you know, what was this time of year like for you? We're now, 1 or 2 days away before the vets report?
As an older guy, the anxiety, it isn't as high as when you were younger. I'm usually figuring out things around the house. At this point in life, you usually have a family. You got your wife, you got the kids. You're getting all those affairs in order, making sure that they're set up and they're ready to go while you're gone for 3-4 weeks, however long it's going to be. And you're just getting in your last errands. You know, you're enjoying your last supper, whatever you want to call it, getting something good to eat, and then you're headed off to, you know, wherever you are in the NFL. You know, for us, it was in St. Joseph, Missouri.
Yeah.
You know, going from our big king size comfortable beds to college dorm, what were full size? I don't know what they were. I don't even think they were full size.
If we were lucky.
Sharing bathrooms and, you know, have a roommate. Like, so, you know, it was a totally different life, but it was cool, man. Yeah. I enjoyed it the later I got in my career, but early on, I absolutely hated it.
Early on, it was so hard. I remember, you know, before I got married and before I had kids, I would stay. So I was in New York. I would stay at the Jets facility. I mean, I would stay in New Jersey for the summer because I didn't want to get my mind out of football mode, because I remembered how difficult it was to go through OTAs, minicamp, and then have that break
Yeah.
where you just sort of, you unwind, you enjoy the summer, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's right back on you. And now you got to switch back into football mode. So before I was married and kids, I used to just stay there and just sort of try to stay in football mode so that, it didn't have to be 0 to 100.
Yeah.
But then as I, obviously get married, have kids, my wife, doesn't want to be living in Jersey or Kansas City during the off season, want to be home and with the family. And so I just remember the transition mentally was so much because you're right. I mean, you're staring down the barrel of a 23 game season with the preseason, all that stuff, however many games it is. And basically no days off for that amount of time. I mean, it's a half the year. You're just going all the time. There's really no time off. And that could be overwhelming, So I just remember trying to put on a smiley face and enjoy those last couple of days. But I remember, we start getting to be a week out and I stopped talking. I stopped talking, laugh.
We're all the same.
Need to get out there, man. I just need to get out there and do it. And I always laugh because I see guys on Twitter and Facebook that are still posting about how excited they are to be going to training camp. And part of me is like, you might be a little bit excited.
You're excited for the season. You're not excited for training camp. The absolute worst part that gave me the most anxiety, even though I was prepared, was just the conditioning test.
Yeah.
And it was just like for big guys, and we had 16 half gassers. So with, 16 seconds? I don't know what it was. But it was a tough test. I'm not going to lie. And it was one of those things, no matter how much you prepared, you're going to be dog shit tired afterward.
Bro, dead. I remember 2015, my last season, and I had a good idea going into it that was going to be my last year. I wanted to come back from the Achilles injury, but I knew my body was wearing down fast. And I remember getting through the last rep of the 16 half gassers and thinking, thank God I remember it vividly as I crossed, never have to do that again. Yes. That test is so hard. So just to compare, I had 2 strength coaches when I was with the Jets, and they had different tests, but it was basically like if you worked out, you could pass the test. Like they weren't overly hard. The only people that struggled were guys that just didn't put in any effort during the off season and they would fail. But if you went and worked out and did your agilities and stuff like that, you didn't have to do any sort of special conditioning training to get ready for the conditioning test. You just had to do what you had to do to get ready for football, and you would pass. At Kansas City, 16 half gassers, and like you said, I think it was 18 seconds that we had to get it in.
Yeah, it was 18 seconds.
With 45 seconds break, but it was quicker than 45 seconds. That test was no joke. And I had to set aside days in the week just to practice that test. Mm-hmm. Because here's a lot of times that would happen when you run those half gassers, right? You're running down the field, you're stopping and you're turning around at one side and coming back to the other side. You see a lot of guys, not only because they're out of shape, but just because they didn't practice the test, hurt their back because you have to change direction so many times. Yeah. And so not only did you have to practice the conditioning, but you had to practice your stepping turn with your left to turn, your left foot, and then stepping with your right foot to turn back. I mean, so this just speaks to Andy Reid, Barry in the weight room, obviously Rick in the training room. Conditioning is a precedent in Kansas City, and for good reason, because there are so many injuries that occur when guys aren't in good shape. And now the way training camp isn't like when we started, right, Jeff? I mean, when we used to have 2-a-days and all this stuff in the heat, and now you have about, I think I counted one time, you have about 6 or 7 full padded practices before you get to the first preseason game.
That's not a lot at all.
Or it might have even been the entire training camp, 6 or 7. I mean, that's not a lot of time to get into shape and get ready. Whereas, when we first started, I had 25, 30 full padded practice before training camp was out. So you ain't going to get in shape practicing.
No.
You're just going to get hurt. And so Kansas City has always done a great job of making sure those guys are in shape. And the one thing that I've always been impressed with, Jeff, is very rarely, and knock on wood, do you see guys starting on PUP because they failed the test. I mean, guys come into Kansas City ready to rock.
I mean, you're getting used to it during the OTA period.
Yes,
We're conditioning then. But it's like you said, it speaks volumes to the organization and their focus on conditioning. And I don't know the exact data, but if you look at Andy Reid's teams and, Barry Rubin's teams and Rick Burkhalter's teams and their combination, those guys coming together and getting these guys in shape, guys when they get to the season, aren't really getting hurt.
Right.
If you look at them compared to other teams, they are really good fourth quarter teams.
Right.
I don't want to talk about that Bengals game. We weren't a good fourth quarter team that game, but like historically speaking, Andy Reid led teams are good fourth quarter teams,
right?
And get stronger as the game go on because of the conditioning. So, I mean, it sucks, but there's a method to the madness.
Exactly. No, it does suck, and that's sort of, but it is important, and that I want to transition from that point into the importance of training camp, but not just any training camp. 2022 training camp for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
Tucker, our producer, gave me a note before we started about the youth on this roster, this Kansas City roster. And, I thought, okay, maybe there's some, I had never really studied the actual roster itself. And I thought, okay, maybe at some key positions, we have some young guys, but traditionally from 2013 on, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but Kansas City, Andy Reid, Brett Veach, John Dorsey, those locker rooms were filled with veteran guys. I mean, when I got there, forget it. Everybody was old. You had Tamba and Justin and you and DJ and all these guys. So I went and looked at the roster. There are about 15 players, 17 if you count the backup quarterback and the long snapper, that are 6 years and older, 6 years in the league and older. Everybody else is 5 years and under, with a majority being in the rookie first year, second year. So that I was really surprised when I did not realize how young this team was. So talk about training camp. I guess we were going to get to this and I never circled back to it, but coming in as a rookie, what that was like for you, and then how important this training camp is. Because when you go in a training camp and you got 55 guys that are 8 years and older, training camp is more, more of a logistical thing than anything else. Now it's really, really important. So So give me your thoughts, brother.
It's really important, more so important than any other phase in the offseason. Excuse me, because during OTAs, there's limited time, there's limited reps for everybody, especially younger guys. But in training camp, I know there's only one practice now, but it's a long practice. It's a 3-hour practice with a lot of periods, and there's a lot of reps. Minute. There's a lot of reps to go around. So a lot of young guys, for the first time, they're getting those live reps. They're taking what they're learning in the classroom to the field. So it's really important for them to, make that transition and go out there and actually hit some guys and see like the speed of the game, because we do those periods where ones go versus twos and twos versus threes, and you're playing a level up. So you're saying like, okay, this is what I have to look forward to.
Right.
This is what it looks like, when a 9-time Pro Bowler is coming down my neck.
Right. Exactly.
This is what this feels like when it's at the end of practice in a 2-minute drill where you're so tired that you can barely lift your legs. This is what it's going to feel like in the fourth quarter, and this is the National Football League. It is really fast, and it's not just fast because guys are athletic. I mean, everyone's athletic. I mean, when you get to the NFL, but it's really fast because guys are smart. I mean, they're professional athletes. You study your ass off. Guys know exactly what to do, how to do it. They have the right technique. So you're getting it from all angles as a rookie, and either you're gonna sink or you're gonna swim. It's no way around it, and that's why. I mean, unfortunately, the stats are what they are. Guys don't last very long because it's not for everybody.
No, I my rookie year going to the Jets, that was a hard lesson for me to learn, was how important studying the game was. I loved playing football at the University of Maine, but one of the downsides of being a good player at a smaller university like that, a 1AA school, is I didn't have to study anything. Like I just Jeff, I was as big and strong as I was in, my year 7 as I was my last year in college. So I just put my hand down and I was gone. And there was just nobody that could block me because I didn't look at backfield sets or know what formations were or down and distance tendencies or none of that. I just ran people over. That was it. I mean, it was just in the league. And I'm sure, where you were at a Division 1A program, it wasn't like that. And that was a fast learning curve for me, because I remember I had gotten through the season and around week 7, week 8 had gotten the opportunity to play and, was still behind in the mental aspect of the game. And I had 2 or 3 chances, 2 or 3 games to play, and I made some critical mistakes and ended up, losing playing time, getting put back on, being undressed for the, inactive for the games because of my mental game wasn't caught up.
Yeah.
And so I say all that to say, when you're going into a training camp like this, where you've had Andy Reid and the same coaching staffs for the past however many years, and you're an older veteran guy that's used to the playbook, knows how to study the game, knows the speed of the game. Again, this is more of, a formality than anything else. It's still important to get around the team and all that, but training camp, I think when you have teams like that, a lot of it is getting through that without any injuries, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what most, but now with these rookies, and these young guys, they need to pick that up, because you don't want to get into the regular season and not understand how fast the game is and how important though the mental reps are, and and mental reps meaning understanding what you're doing out there when you're taking those live reps. And so this training camp, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but I think in the Andy Reid era, this is the most important training camp for this team to be successful that we've seen. I think a lot hinges on these young guys getting in there, getting around these veterans, getting used to the speed of the game, like you said, and learning that game, the ins and outs, because we don't have the luxury that we had years past, where guys, you had a ton of veteran guys that knew the system, knew the offense, knew the defense, had mastered those things, understood how to prepare for offenses or defenses or opponents, special teams wise. That you got a lot of young guys learning that. And so this is going to be critical this year for these guys to have a very good training camp. You can't have those days where Andy Reid comes to the podium and says, guys kind of shit the bed a little bit today. They weren't focused. You can't have that this year. Every one of these practices needs to be maximized.
Without a doubt.
And talked about the importance, you've played, even as a young guy, you were always a leader. And it was because of I think it was really because of how good you were, that guys respected the hell out of you. So talk about what that's like, because right now we talk about the youth in this team. These older guys, Kels, Chris Jones, obviously Mahomes, Juju, these older guys. Now Juju's going to be learning too, because this is his first time.
First year.
So, these older guys that have been in the system have to step up and lead these younger guys. So talk to me, how much pressure did you put on yourself? Because I always saw you as a fantastic leader, but how much pressure did you put on yourself as a leader to raise up the guys around you, especially those young guys on that offensive line?
Well, as an older guy, I felt like it was my responsibility, because I had guys before me that did it for me. So as I got older and I progressed and I started to put things under my tool belt and I learned things as a professional, I wanted to give back. Not only did it make me feel good as a veteran guy that I know I was helping the guy along, it made the team better. And that's what we want to win. So, and what better way to help us win is to get the younger guys and bring them up to speed. So that was my responsibility. I always made sure that I wasn't just speaking and I wasn't just giving them words. Of course, I would speak to them and talk and encourage them, but I was doing the right things, in the training room, in the locker room. As much as I love to eat like crap sometimes, I was making sure that when I was in the training table or in the cafeteria that I had a good balanced meal, because guys are watching everything. So I wanted to show those things, so guys were doing the right things as young professionals,
right?
And they were becoming better men and better football players.
Yeah, I always really appreciated guys like you, and I tried to do the same thing. When I first got in the league, I was in a locker room with a lot of older veterans and a lot of younger guys, and there was a lot of competition. And so as a rookie, I went in used to the college game where everybody's kind of on the same team and we're working hard together to win. When I got into that locker room, that defensive line room as a rookie, I quickly realized that nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. These guys want to they need to put food on their table. They need to provide for their family. So they don't care if I do well or don't do well. But I remember there were 2 guys specifically, Sean Ellis and Kenyon Coleman, who went out of their way as older veterans to make sure that I understood what was going on, to sort of take me under their wing, so to speak. Yeah. And that really meant a lot to me, because I know that in doing that, there was a chance that they could lose their jobs because I was going to, I could take their spot.
I'll give you a quick story. My rookie season, I was drafted in the second round, and I was brought in to be the starting left guard. And at the time, the starting left guard was Ryan Lilja.
I like
And
Ryan.
I love Ryan. That's one of my good dudes. I love that dude. He was one of the guys that helped me the most in my young career.
He's a great guy.
When I got in, you have OTAs and you mix in with the veterans and minicamp and all of that. And I just remember, like, he wouldn't say a freaking word to me. Like, he was just scalding at me, and I'm like, man, like, I know I got drafted to take your job, but Jesus Christ,
that's
man.
right. That's right.
But then we got to training camp and to the season, and he was my biggest fan, man. He helped me so much. He helped develop me. I think initially it was one of those, like, man, this sucks. Yeah. And then he showed who he really was. He's like, I'm going to help this guy out. I'm going to be the person that I'm really here to be, and I'm going to help get this guy up to speed. And I really appreciate Ryan. So shout out to you, Ryan Lilja.
Yeah, shout out.
You're the reason why I had that attitude with younger guys. Even if there was a guy that was in there that was competing with me, or they, quote unquote, drafted to take my job, I would always, try to make him the best player ever. Because at the end of the day, if I'm not good enough to get it done, then I'm just not good enough.
Yeah, and you know what, Jeff, that takes real humility and real toughness, and you really lived that. I mean, I remember from the second, I think my first year in Kansas City, I think, was your second year on the team. Yeah, and I could tell right away that you were a leader. You were getting shit done, and I always respected you. The hell out of you for that. Okay, I want to talk specifically about one guy on the offensive line that I liked in the draft. We talk about these young guys that I want to get your thoughts on is Darian Kinnard. This man from Kentucky, it's Kentucky, right? Was that where?
Yeah, Kentucky with the blue hair.
That's right.
God, that blue hair. He dyed it red though.
Oh, did he dye red? There we go. So we're good. Now we're back on the same page. Now we're good to go. He just looks the part. I mean, when I think of the presence that you brought to that offensive line, right? Yeah. That nastiness. You need a guy. I know as a defensive lineman, I hated watching a team, getting ready for a team, and I'm watching the film, and you see that one guy, right? That Jeff Allen, that Richie Incognito, that guy that's just gonna, you're gonna, not only do you have to play hard against dirt, through the whistle, but after the whistle, you got to get, watch for getting punched in the neck or stepped in the back.
He's gonna be throwing dirt on you, talking crap,
cussing, spitting in your face. So Kinnard looks like he fits that role, and you already have guys on this offensive line. So Niang looks like he's hurt, so there could be some opening. I know Niang fits that mold sometimes as well, but I know there could be some spots open on that offensive line. And looking at the transcript, Kinnard's been practicing all the sort of different positions, getting ready to go for when the veterans get there. So I guess there's a few questions. Talk to me about what you think of Kinnard specifically, and then I'm also curious about what it's like to train offensive line at all the different spots. I think people think that it's just plug and play, but it's really not. And sort of going back to Kinnard, the prospects of him, getting in there and being a contributing factor on this offense.
I mean, we'll start with the player Kinnard, and what I saw at Kentucky and watching film on him, he's nasty.
Yeah.
He plays extremely hard. He finishes throughout the whistle, and he's got a little prick to him. And I know that sounds like a negative, characteristic, but when you play offensive line, that's probably the best characteristic that you can have.
Right.
And he's going to fit right in with this group. You got Trey Smith, who's an absolute bull. Creed Humphrey, who's a dog himself. Joe Thuney, Orlando Brown whenever he comes back.
Yeah.
And he's just going to fit in. Andrew Wiley plays hard, extremely hard. These guys are finishers. And that's something that you can't necessarily teach. I mean, a guy can have all the skill in the world, can be a good football player, but you can't teach someone to finish and be a dog. And he has that characteristic. So I'm excited to see him when he actually gets in there. As far as him shuffling around right now, that's all based on, his, I guess, development. Mm-hmm. They see some potential in him. Obviously, he has some flexibility, so they're going to utilize him maybe in that role right now until he gets up to speed. I don't know where he is in the classroom or how he's looking right now, but they're like, hey, this guy has some flexibility. He can play multiple positions. He can possibly be the swing guy with potential with the upside to be a starter or right tackle coming into the season. Right now, I think Andrew Wiley has that spot as his to lose.
Oh, that's right. Right. Yeah.
But there will definitely be competition. At the end of the day, what Andy Reid does, he's a believer in playing the best five guys. And that's what helped me a lot. I mean, there's seasons where I started at right tackle in Kansas City because he wanted to get the best 5 guys on the field, and it was better for me to play right tackle than it was to play left guard one year.
How hard is that, though? How hard is that?
It's hard. I mean, I was fortunate enough to be able to play multiple positions based off of my size. Like I was a hybrid, so I was kind of in between guy that I could play both positions. When you're bigger,
6'4",
6'4", 315. So I could get away with playing right tackle. I was a guard size, a bigger guard, but a guard size, as opposed to maybe like a Joe Thuney. I mean, I know he's played left tackle. He's done it really well, but he's not a very big guy.
Right.
And then you have like guys like when I came in, Ben Grubbs signed in the offseason. So they moved him to left guard right away, a Pro Bowl guy. And they're like, Jeff, I'm sorry, you're a young guy. We're competing. And I win the right tackle job. So now I'm one of the best 5 guys, just not playing left guard anymore. So
that's right.
It just depends. Like if he goes in there and he plays well at one of those positions, who knows where he might be left tackle? Who knows?
Right.
Andy Reid is going to put the best 5 guys out there. And that's fair.
Yeah. And what I love about what Andy Reid and Veach do, like I totally forgot about Wiley until you said that, is there's no like fake competition.
No.
Where like when I was with New York, we had Damian Woody, Brandon Moore, Nick Mangold, Alan Faniga, and DeBrickashaw Ferguson. Right. So that was the offensive line. So there was no competition.
There was no competition.
No, it was those guys, and then you had some backups. In Kansas City, you have like you said, you have a number of guys that you could plug in and could be starters right away. And Kinnard looks like he's cut from that mold as well.
Yeah.
And so there's real competition there. And the beauty of that is when you get into the regular season and a guy goes down, and now you have a backup like Kinnard that can play all the spots and can play it at a starting level. There really is no misstep, right? I mean, you're just cooking.
There's no drop off. I think what I'm most excited for is when those pads come on.
Yeah.
Because we've seen the OTAs. I mean, this guy looks like a stud.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see his demeanor. You see the confidence that he has, the swag, of course, the hair color. He looks like a creative player.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see what he looks like in live action at this level with pads on. I think no matter who you are, I mean, you don't want to read too much into it early on. You're going to have a welcome to the NFL moment.
Right.
I remember mine. I'm sure you remember yours.
Yeah.
It's always in training camp. I remember I was blocking Tyson Jackson my rookie year. And I just remember he went right through my numbers. I'm talking bull rushed me 12 yards into the backfield, and I'm looking around. Everyone's in the crowd like, this guy's a bust. Why we draft this kid? He's terrible. But that was the moment where I realized this is a different game. It's a different level.
Yeah.
And I got to get better.
Yeah.
I got to figure out ways to get better so this shit doesn't happen to me every single day. So I'm excited to see I'm excited to see, what he looks like, but I'm excited to see how he responds to that welcome to the NFL moment. When he gets his ass kicked and everyone in the bleachers are looking at him, and how is he going to respond when the coaches are in the film room chewing him out? Is he going to get better? And I think he has the demeanor. Did you hear his when he got drafted, his tone on the phone?
Yeah, I loved it.
I loved it. It was like,
hey,
thank you. It was all business. So I think this kid has the makeup to be a great one. And so I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. And I also at some point want to talk to you. We'll talk about this down the road, but I know, it seems like when you look at his backstory, there's a lot there. And I know when I look at your backstory, there's a lot there. And so how that sort of, that come up into this position now, and how that, makes your character when you look at everything that you've been through, and how that plays out on the football field, and sort of your personality and how you do things.
Definitely your life makes you.
Right.
All those moments in life, those different stages, those things that you persevere through.
Yeah.
That's what makes you what you are. I'm from the South Side of Chicago, so obviously I had a good home. Thankfully, my mother was there. She did a great job, but I still saw things that I shouldn't have seen. I still was in situations that I wish I wasn't in. But those things made me who I was. It made me a tough son of a bitch. It gave me the mental toughness that I needed to make it to the National Football League. And it gave me the gratitude and the humbleness that I needed to, sustain, because when you get to NFL, or before you even get to NFL, if you're a good football player, everyone's telling you how great you are.
Yeah.
There was never one time in my career where listen to any of that. I was always striving to be better. I was always thinking of ways to be better. It's a double-edged sword because I never thought I was good enough because of it. But it also it's what kept me sharp. It's what kept me on top. It's what kept me, motivated. Always feeling like I could be better. And I think that's all because of my upbringing, my mother, my environment. All of those things shaped me and made me, I call it a humble beast.
Yeah. No, you were. And I got really lucky with my upbringing. I had the best of both worlds. So I grew up in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. So not exactly the tough streets. But I had parents from Brooklyn. My dad, second generation over here. My grandparents came from Italy. My dad's name's Vinny. He's from Brooklyn and he owns a construction company.
My Uncle Vinny.
That's right. I mean, he owned a construction company. He made tons of money. We were in, great places. We always had all the benefits, but at the same time, he had that street mentality.
Yeah.
And so, oh man, I mean, you couldn't dick around in my house. I mean, you talk about things not being good enough. I remember being in the league and finishing up, a season and, doing well. And my dad's like, listen, if you don't make it to a Pro Bowl or go to the Super Bowl, I probably won't come and visit. You know what I mean? Like that was the standard was set so high. When I was coming out of high school, I was originally going to go to the military and I was getting recruited by West Point. I don't know if I told this story. Forgive me if I've said it already, but I was getting recruited by West Point and I went on a recruiting trip to West Point and I just said, I can't do this. These guys are, swimming with machine guns at 4:30 in the morning. Like I want to go get drunk and play football. And, I remember my dad being so mad when we left and I said, I don't want to do it. I'm going to go to Maine. He said, if you don't join the military, you damn sure better make it to the NFL. Yeah. Like those were my options coming out. Right. So like I was very, very lucky in that regard. I'm always grateful for that.
I think that's interesting when you talk about just the genetic makeup from a psychological standpoint of an NFL player. It takes like this extreme grit to make it to that level.
It does.
And you had your dad to give it to you. I had my mother was tough as hell. I had my environment. I also had my uncle. I remember just as a kid, not really wanting to work hard.
Right.
But I was taught it. I think we're not born to want to work hard. We're not born even to want to do any hard shit.
Right. Exactly.
But life makes the hard stuff easier.
Right.
And I think that's what makes our mental makeup. And that's really cool to hear your side of it.
Well, and Jeff, and not to get too far off this tangent, but being a parent now, it's not easy to do that. It's not easy to be tough on them, right? It's like, I want to shelter them and make sure everything's good. And I don't want to see them have to struggle. But when I look at you, when I look at all the stories in the locker room, when I look at my upbringing, when you look at what it takes to get to the top, it's very rare that you find a guy that had everything handed to him his whole life, but just happened to develop the toughness to play at the next level or to be great at anything they did.
Yeah.
And so I have even more respect now for my parents. And I'm sure you could say the same thing, given how you see that's not easy. It's not easy to discipline them. It's not easy to make sure things aren't always perfect and that they have to struggle and work hard. And shout out to our parents because that is not them. Gosh, we're already on 32 minutes. I got so many different things. Let's
keep going, man.
Well, let's keep this one quick. We're gonna be going in next week. We're gonna be meeting all training camp, talking about training camp. I want to talk about Karlaftis. I love him. We have a JJ Watt type guy with that.
We got a couple Big Ten guys. Shout out to the Big Ten. Leo Chanel. See you in the building, baby.
That's right. They come up. They're coming up. I want to talk about Justin Reid and how we've had this lineage of leadership with Eric Berry, Honey Badger, and now you have Reid and sort of what his role is like and how he has to plug in and be a leader on that young defense along with Chris Jones and different guys. So much stuff to address. Jeff, why don't we cap it here? We're at 30 minutes. We'll cap it here. We'll get on next week. So many things to talk about. Chiefs Kingdom, we are so happy to be back with you. Check us out. Make sure to share, like, talk about Cookie Society. We want to hear all about those cookies in the comments. Subscribe.
Orders, all those good
all
things.
that stuff. Get the gear. Get the Cookie Society gear. I'm telling you, my best T-shirts, hands down, are the Cookie Society ones. Hands down. Get those T-shirts. You will not be disappointed. Get the cookies. And Chiefs Kingdom, here we go, baby. Road to the Super Bowl starts now. 1-on-1. We are back. We love you. Have a great week, and we will see you next week with another episode. Big Jeff, thank you, brother. Love you, man.
Love you too. Good to see you. Go Chiefs.
Here we go, Chiefs.